He wasn't the kind of man who believed in softness. Years of routine, discipline, and self-imposed silence had forged something cold in him until she stepped into his life, barefoot and humming, as if the world had never been cruel. Her name was Aria, and the first time he saw her, she was curled up in the corner booth of a rundown bookstore cafe, sketching strangers with a kind of quiet intimacy that unsettled him. Something about the way she held the pencil like it was an extension of her soul made him pause. He hadn't meant to speak to her. He never did with strangers. But she looked up, met his eyes, and said, "You look like a man who doesn't know how to be touched." It hit him like a slap. He turned to leave, but her voice followed, not mocking, gentle, amused, curious. "You've been starving, haven't you?" But not for food. The days that followed turned into a rhythm he couldn't explain. He returned to that bookstore each evening, never admitting he came to see her. She was always there, sometimes drawing, sometimes sipping tea, sometimes just staring at the world like she could taste its secrets. She never pushed him to talk, but when he did, she listened like it mattered. He told her about his job, dull finance numbers, gray walls, colleagues with eyes like tired clocks. He didn't tell her about the nightmares, or the quiet ache in his chest, but she knew, somehow, she knew. One night, rain spilled from the sky like it was angry at the world, and they stayed until the calf lights dimmed. She invited him to her place not with lust, but with something deeper, a knowing. Her apartment smelled of lavender and books. She handed him a dry shirt, lit candles, and said, "Let's lie down, not to touch, just lie down." He obeyed, unsure why his hands trembled. They lay facing each other on the bed, silence thick between them, breath slow. Then she reached out and placed her palm against his chest, not to arouse, to listen. "You always breathe like you're afraid the air will leave you," she whispered. He couldn't answer. His throat tightened. She moved closer, resting her forehead against his. "What broke you?" she asked softly. The answer came in pieces. His ex-fiancé who had loved his strength but despised his softness. The childhood he never spoke of. A father with fists for words. A mother who disappeared into her wineglass. He didn't cry, not then, but something cracked inside him. She didn't speak again. She just stayed, arms around him like a fortress. That night, she taught him silence could be love too. The second time they lay down together, it wasn't silence. It was trembling kisses and fingers tangled like roots. She taught him that touch didn't have to take, it could give. That love wasn't a transaction or a performance, it was a surrender. He kissed her shoulder and tasted safety. Her lips didn't demand, they welcomed. Every gasp was a release of something buried. Every sigh, a truth he never thought he'd speak. She asked strange questions in the dark. "What's your favorite scar?" He showed her the one on his ribs from falling out of a tree as a kid. "What would you say to your 10-year-old self?" He whispered, "It wasn't your fault. They made love not like two bodies, but two people stitching themselves back together." And afterward, she pressed her cheek to his chest and said, "You're learning. I can feel it in your heartbeat." He started drawing her in his mind, lines and curves he didn't understand until her. At work, he smiled more. At night, he touched her like a prayer. He brought her old books with pressed flowers, and she laughed like bells when she found his secret notes inside. She kissed him like each part of him mattered. But one morning, he woke up to find her gone. No note, no message, just the warmth of her pillow, already fading. Panic spread through him. He checked everywhere. Her phone was disconnected, her apartment empty, as if she'd never lived there. Her landlord claimed no one named Aria had ever rented it. He tore apart the bookstore cafe, begging the owner for answers. But the owner, an old man with cloudy eyes, simply shook his head. "That corner booth's been empty for years," he said. "Ever since my daughter died there. She used to draw strangers, died sketching. Heart failure, they said." Her name was Aria. His knees gave out. Then he noticed the sketchbook behind the booth's cushion. Shaking, he flipped through it. Each page held portraits of strangers, but near the end, it was all him. Smiling, laughing, sleeping, crying. And the last page wasn't a drawing at all. It was a note, written in that familiar looping script. "Now you know how to be touched. Don't unlearn it." The final line was even smaller, half faded, as if she wasn't sure he'd ever read it. "I love you more than this world will ever understand." And at the very bottom, scribbled in red pencil, "I'm sorry I couldn't stay." He stared. at the sketchbook until tears blurred the lines. He pressed it to his chest. Then something brushed his cheek, a breeze, a whisper, maybe a ghost. He turned, and in the flickering bookstore lights, just for a moment, he saw her barefoot, smiling, and waiting. Days passed in a fog of disbelief, yet the sketchbook was his tether to her, fragile, precious, real. He carried it everywhere, flipping its pages like a prayer, searching for the warmth he'd lost. At work, numbers blurred. In sleep, her face haunted him, smiling yet sorrowful, a riddle he couldn't solve. The world had grown colder, but inside, a storm raged. One evening, restless and desperate, he returned to the bookstore, hoping to find some trace of her ascent, a whisper, anything. The old owner greeted him with the same tired eyes but said nothing about Aria. As the clock ticked toward closing time, he noticed a narrow alley behind the shop, half hidden by a rusted gate. His heart thumped as if pulled by invisible threads. He slipped through, careful not to make a sound. The alley ended at a small, neglected garden, overgrown but alive. Among the weeds, a weathered bench held a thin envelope sealed with wax. Hands trembling, he broke it open. Inside was a letter, written in Aria's delicate handwriting. I had to leave before you knew. Some wounds don't heal with love, only with letting go. I was never meant to stay not like this. There are things I can't say, and dangers you can't see. Promise me you won't look for answers that will hurt you more than the silence. His blood ran cold. What dangers? What silence? He looked around but found only shadows stretching like fingers. That night, unable to sleep, he read the letter. Again, memories surfaced unbidden. Her rare glances at passing strangers, hushed phone calls ending abruptly, a locked drawer he never saw. He felt an ache that was not just heartbreak, but a gnawing fear. Days later, a mysterious text appeared. On his phone, no number, no name. Do you want to understand why she left? Meet me where the stars forget the sky. Midnight, alone. His fingers hovered, heart pounding. Could this be a trap, or the truth he craved? Against every instinct, he texted back, I'm coming. At midnight, he stood beneath the vast black sky in an abandoned observatory on the city's edge. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the distant hum of the city sleeping. Suddenly, a shadow moved. A figure stepped forward, tall, cloaked, voice low and calm. Aria wasn't just an artist, the stranger said. She was part of something bigger, something that threatened the balance of what you know. He swallowed, the weight of a secret crushing him. What do you mean? The stranger handed him a small device, a glowing pendant humming with quiet energy. This belonged to her. It holds a memory she couldn't share. It's why she disappeared. With trembling hands, he touched the pendant. Images flooded his mind, faces twisted in fear, secret meetings in shadows, whispers of a love caught between light and dark. He saw Aria's smile, but also her tears, her choices that carved distance between them. Your love saved her, the stranger said. But some battles are not fought in daylight. You must decide, keep her memory alive, or let her go forever. The sky cracked with distant thunder as he stood at the crossroads of heart and fate. The pendant pulsed like a heartbeat in his palm, and the night whispered, choose. He closed his eyes and whispered, I want to fight, for her, for us. But when he opened them, the stranger was gone, vanished like a ghost, leaving only the pendant and a question burning hotter than stars. What had Aria really taught him about love and sacrifice? The pendant pulls faintly against his skin, a quiet heartbeat in the dark that seemed to echo his own. He clutched it tight as he stumbled away from the abandoned observatory, every shadow now laced with suspicion. Who was that stranger? What secret was Aria hiding, one that could pull him into a danger far beyond lost love? But beneath the fear, something deeper stirred, a fierce need to understand, to hold on, to fight. Back in his apartment, he studied the pendant under the harsh light, searching for clues. Symbols glowed faintly on its surface, ancient, unfamiliar. Then, as if answering his silent plea, the pendant hummed louder, projecting a small hologram, a flickering image of Aria, her eyes wide with urgency. If you see this, her voice whispered through the static, it means I didn't make it back. The truth I hid is bigger than us. There's a war coming, one that began long ago between those who control love and those who destroy it. I was caught in the middle. You must be careful. Trust no one. His heart shattered and raced all at once. The girl who taught him to love had been a soldier in a silent war, and now he was being pulled in. Determined, He traced every connection she'd left behind. Her art showed strange patterns, hidden messages folded into sketches. Late nights found him piecing together fragments of a secret world, a network of people fighting unseen battles for the control of human hearts and minds. Then, a call from an unknown number jolted him. A woman's voice, calm but firm. "You don't know me, but I knew Aria. She believed you could finish what she started. Meet me tomorrow. The truth is dangerous, but you have to hear it." He agreed, heart pounding with equal parts hope and dread. The next day, in a quiet cafe, the woman appeared, a sharp-eyed stranger named Mira, whose gaze seemed to cut through his soul. She revealed Aria's story, a guardian of a secret society that protected the purity of love from manipulation by dark forces. Aria had fallen for him, but her enemies hunted her relentlessly. When the danger grew too close, she chose to vanish rather than drag him into the shadows. As Mira spoke, the cafe's lights flickered. Outside, a black car idled, its engine whispering threats. "They're watching," Mira warned. "You're not safe." Panic surged through him. The man who once feared touch now felt every moment as a fight for survival and love. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a message from Aria's number. "Remember what I taught you. Love is power. Use it wisely." His breath caught. What had he learned between those sheets wasn't just passion, it was strength, a weapon against the darkness closing in. He rose, clutching the pendant, and looked Mira in the eyes. "Then I won't run. I'll fight for her, for us." But outside, shadows moved closer. The war was no longer a secret, and in the depths of night, love had become the fiercest battleground of all. The city's pulse quickened as shadows deepened, and he felt the weight of every second slipping through his fingers like sand. Armed with the pendant and Mira's warnings, he plunged into a world he never knew existed, one where love was both a weapon and a target. Each step drew him deeper into the maze of secrets Aria had fought to protect, and every stranger could be a friend or a foe cloaked in darkness. That night, Mira led him to an underground sanctuary, a place where whispers of resistance flickered like candlelight in endless tunnels beneath the city. Faces blurred into one another, but their purpose was clear: protect the essence of love from those who sought to corrupt it. Here, he met people who carried scars deeper than his own, warriors of heart and soul who had lost everything but still stood unyielding. They trained him not in weapons, but in the language of emotions, teaching him to channel the power Aria had awakened inside him. But the more he learned, the more the line between love and danger blurred. Shadows hunted them relentlessly, twisting love into chains of fear and control. The pendant pulsed warnings he could no longer ignore. One night, as they gathered around flickering monitors, an alarm shattered the fragile calm. "Breach!" Mira shouted, eyes blazing. "They've found us!" Chaos erupted. In the confusion, he felt a sharp pain, a blade grazing his side. Gritting his teeth, he fought not for his life, but for the memory of Aria's touch, her whispered courage. They fled through labyrinthine tunnels, heartbeats pounding in unison with the pendant's glow. In a narrow passage, he stumbled, dropping the pendant. Time froze. As the enemy closed in, a hand soft but fierce grasped his wrist. "Don't give up," a voice urged. It was Aria.no. Not the Aria he remembered, but a woman cloaked in shadows, eyes shining with both love and sorrow. "I never left," she said. "I was fighting from the darkness to keep you safe." Confusion and relief warred inside him as she helped him to his feet. Together, they sprinted through the tunnels, the enemy's footsteps pounding behind. "I taught you love was strength," she whispered, breathless. "Now, you have to believe it can save us both." They emerged into the cold dawn, the city waking unaware of the war beneath its streets. Bloodied but unbroken, he looked at her, the woman who had taught him to love between the sheets, and now taught him to fight for that love in the harsh light of day. But even as hope flickered, a chilling thought struck him: how many more battles lay ahead? And was the love they shared enough to win a war no one else could see? They barely had time to catch their breath before the silence shattered again, this time by the crackling of a hidden transmitter nestled beneath Aria's collarbone. The pendant pulsed violently in his hand, a frantic heartbeat screaming through the quiet morning. "Someone's coming," Aria whispered, her eyes sharp and wild with urgency. "We don't have much time." He grabbed her hand, the touch electric, grounding him amid the chaos swirling around them. Every second was a dagger, every breath a battle. They darted through back alleys and forgotten streets, chased not by shadows but by a relentless enemy with faces he couldn't yet trust. In their flight, fragments of memories surged through him, her laughter like sunlight, the softness of her skin beneath his fingers, the secrets they shared in the dark. He realized the love she taught him wasn't just about passion. It was resilience, defiance, and trust forged in fire. They reached a derelict building, its broken windows like empty eyes watching their escape. Inside, Mira waited, her expression grim but resolute. "We've lost our safe places," she said. "They're closer than ever. The war is escalating." Aria looked at him, a silent question in her gaze. He nodded, heart pounding with resolve. Suddenly, a burst of static filled the room. The pendant's glow intensified, projecting a distorted image, a warning. "They have the one who holds the key." His blood ran cold. The key? What key? And who had they captured? Before answers came, the building trembled as an explosion rocked the street outside. Dust and debris filled the air, and chaos swallowed the fragile sanctuary. In the smoke, Aria gripped his face, her voice breaking. "We can't lose them. Not now." He swallowed fear, steadying himself. "Then we fight, together." As sirens wailed in the distance and shadows closed in, he understood the truth Aria had tried to teach him all along. Love was more than tenderness between the sheets. It was courage in the face of darkness, a battle cry in the silence, and the only weapon strong enough to defy a war that threatened to consume them both. And as they vanished into the smoke, hand in hand, he vowed to protect that love no matter the cost. The smoke from the explosion still hung thick in the air, choking the narrow streets and blurring the edges of reality. He and Aria moved quickly, their breaths shallow but steady, hearts pounding as if trying to outrun the chaos chasing them. Mira's warning echoed in his mind. The key was out there, someone vital, someone dangerous, and now they had no safe place to hide. They slipped through a maze of alleyways, guided by Aria's sharp instincts and the faint pulse of the pendant. It led them to an old church on the city's outskirts, abandoned and cloaked in shadows, a forgotten relic in a world that seemed to be crumbling. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of faded prayers. They weren't alone. A figure stepped from the shadows, a man with eyes like fractured glass and a smile that didn't reach them. "I've been waiting," he said smoothly, voice dripping with menace. "Aria, you taught him well, but love isn't enough to save you now." The man's words sent a cold wave through him. This was the enemy, one who understood love's power but sought to twist it into chains. His hand tightened around the pendant, its glow intensifying like a heartbeat matching his own. Aria stepped forward, fearless despite the danger. "You'll never win," she said, voice steady but fierce. "Love is stronger than fear." The man laughed, a sound like shattering glass. "Then prove it." Suddenly, the room blurred and shifted. Reality bent, twisting into a vision of memories and desires, his deepest fears and hopes laid bare. He saw Aria's past, her battles, her sacrifices. But he also saw their moments, soft touches, whispered promises, the way she made him believe again. The pendant flared, breaking the illusion. He realized then that love wasn't just a feeling or a weapon, it was a choice. A choice to fight, to forgive, to trust even when the world tried to tear them apart. With newfound strength, he faced the man. "I choose love, not because it's easy, but because it's worth fighting for." The man's smile faltered. In that moment, the shadows around them recoiled, and the enemy's power waned. Aria reached for his hand, their fingers entwining. "We're not alone," she whispered. "Together, we can change the story." As dawn broke outside, painting the sky with shades of hope, he understood the truth Aria had always known. Love between the sheets was just the beginning. What came after the fight, the sacrifice, the unwavering faith, was where real love lived. The first rays of dawn spilled through crack-stained glass, casting fractured rainbows on the worn stone floor. The battle in that forgotten church had left scars, but neither he nor Aria faltered. Together, they stood as a beacon against the gathering darkness, their hands still tightly clasped, the pendant's soft glow a steady heartbeat between them. Word had spread through the underground network. Love was no longer a secret weapon wielded quietly in shadows. It was a revolution, a spark igniting hope in hearts long dulled by fear and control. The resistance was growing, fueled by stories of two souls who refused to surrender. But peace was fragile. Even as the city woke, sirens echoed a distant warning, enemies regrouping, plotting their next strike. He knew their journey was far from over. The war for love's future demanded sacrifices still unknown. That night, beneath a blanket of stars, Aria leaned into him, her breath warm against his neck. "You've changed," she murmured. "You're no longer the man I found in that quiet calf." He smiled, fingers tracing the curve of her jaw. "You taught me what love really means, not just between the sheets, but in every choice, every battle, every surrender." Her eyes sparkled with tears and resolve. "Then we fight, until the world remembers what love is." As the city slept, they made a silent promise, a promise that no darkness, no enemy, could ever break. And somewhere in the shadows, watching and waiting, the enemy knew the war had just begun, but so had their love, and that was a force no one could ever defeat.